Greetings everyone, this is Laura Gdenek with Laura Gdenek Astrology, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the week of June 14th through the 20th, 2021. As you can tell, I am not in my normal environment when I do these videos. I am at Secret Lake in Little Cottonwood Canyon in Salt Lake City, Utah, and it's really beautiful here, and I thought I would do my weekly video here. So, we start off the week, Monday the 14th, with one of the biggest aspects of the year. This is the second Saturn Uranus square. We had the first one on February 17th of 2021. This is the second, and we'll have the final and third at the end of the year on December 24th of 2021. Now, Saturn is a planet about rules, restrictions, limitations, challenges, hard work, the status quo, what's always been done. Saturn rules over time and age and things that come with longevity and commitment. Saturn rules over how things have always been done and, rules and governance in our society. I mean, Jupiter also rules over governance in our society, but I also think Saturn does as well, indicating the status quo, right? Uranus, on the other hand, is a planet very opposite to Saturn. Uranus is about innovation, change, revolution, revelation, unexpected change. I don't know if I already said rebellion, but rebellion, surprises, doing a 180 flip, like you're going in one direction, and a Uranus moment would be like turning around and going in a completely different direction. So these two planets are clashing this year, and that's kind of the major backdrop theme of the year. And we have been feeling this energy pretty intensively for the past 2 months because they've been within a 3-degree orb, these two planets, Saturn and Uranus, within the past 2 months. So this energy is nothing new. We've been dealing with it. We've been living with it. It might be experienced as feeling stuck or maybe beholden to something, maybe committed to something, but wanting to break free from that, or feeling like you need a change, like you need a change in direction or an insight of some kind, to get out of that stuckness. I know I've definitely been feeling that on a personal level, and a lot of clients I've talked with have also been feeling that. So we've been dealing with this and we're used to it. Today's just the exact day that they make the exact aspect, the exact square. And there might be something big that happens today, but not necessarily. If nothing big or drastic in terms of changes happen to you or in your life, it could, look at the lives of other people around you. Also look at the world at large. Oftentimes these slower moving planets really like the changes that are occur in the wider community, in the world at large, and in the collective consciousness. And actually, I'll start with a couple examples. So Saturn first moved into Aquarius, where it was in a whole sign square to Uranus, back in March of 2020. And it was there for a couple months, I think 2.5 to 3 months, before retrograding back into Capricorn for the rest of the year. And during that time period, last March of 2020, we had the largest rising of the Black Lives Matter movement that we've had since the founding of that organization. And, there was back in, when Saturn moved into Aquarius officially again in December of 2020, shortly thereafter in January, there was the stampede at the Capitol. Granted, these groups are totally opposite ideologies and of political opinion, but archetypally and astrologically, they're being represented or symbolized through the planets, right? They're both groups are considered radical, but in totally different ways, and one could argue one way is probably more ethical than the other. At least that's my opinion. Black Lives Matter. But so yeah, that's another example of this sort of uprising happening against the status quo, demanding change, demanding the system changes and that the status quo changes and that this is no longer acceptable. That's kind of the vibe of Uranus. There was also, this is something I don't know too much about, but I heard it from Chani Nicholas, who's a famous astrologer. She's great. But there was also a disruption in the stock market around this same time. I think this was in February. There was a company named GameStop that pumped a bunch of cash into the stock market and left hedge funds who bet against the company at a major loss. So apparently that was a huge scandal in the stock market world. And, you know, Uranus, oh, I don't even know if I mentioned what, yeah, I talked about what Uranus is, revolution, but specifically in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is a sign about money, resources, land, the earth, our assets, etc. So revolutionizing the way that we handle money. So that's one example with the disruption to the stock market. Other examples of Uranus and Taurus, disruption and innovation to food. Example, growing meat in a lab. That has totally been a new thing since Uranus moved into Taurus in 2018 in the spring. And also maybe more radical forms of gardening or agriculture, such as permaculture, coming more into the collective consciousness and awareness. But yeah, so the disruption to the stock market, that was another example of the Saturn square Uranus energy. And then finally, my last example is, this was also in February when it was the power grid in Texas failed during the storm because it was privatized. And so here we go again, right? Like, okay, there's this old outdated system, this privatized power grid that, you know, had a shock to its system and clearly isn't working, isn't sustainable, isn't probably like the best way to get power, basically. And so that's very reflective of the Saturn Uranus square as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if today or over the next couple of days there is another, or maybe even the next couple of weeks, there's another maybe big change in the world at large, having to do with some kind of system, and a big change to that system or a shock to the system, or revealing in some ways how the system is old, outdated, and no longer works. And also Uranus is definitely a planet that has really high expectations and high ideals, particularly for society at large, for the group and the community. And so, you know, a lot of these changes, I think, are happening in order to progress us in this society. But also Uranus and Taurus can be a bit more of a traditional, even conservative sign. And it's hard to know maybe like which planet represents which group of people, but like the uprising at the Capitol in January, to me that could have been like the Uranus and Taurus piece in particular, or that could have been reflective of Saturn. Either way, the symbolism works. So keep a lookout in the news, in your community about regarding some drastic changes that are happening. And also in your personal life. So back to the personal, this might not show up in your life. It kind of depends. I mean, we all have 13 degrees of Aquarius and Taurus somewhere in our charts. So look to see which houses contain those degrees. What topics are being brought up and being highlighted, because that will give you a hint as to where these changes are occurring and where you are being asked to upgrade something or to alter something so that whatever commitment you're in, whatever commitment you're a part of, works better for you, works better for your authentic self. Now, if you have planets, personal planets, around 11 to 15 degrees of the fixed signs, so the fixed signs are Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, then it is likely that you will be feeling this energy more and you will be more impacted, essentially. So yeah, if you know your chart, that's really helpful information. And also looking to the houses that those planets rule, because those topics will likely be brought into the picture as well. But that can get kind of complicated, and I'm way happy to do a consultation if anyone is interested in how this is showing up in your life and your chart and how to kind of manage the energies at hand. Okay, so yeah, so this aspect is really about course correcting, a change in the plan or the status quo, something rebelling against something or something changing. Maybe there's an urge for freedom from something that feels oppressive, or there could also be unexpected change to your Saturn ruled houses. So looking to see the houses that Saturn rules, which is Aquarius and Capricorn. And like I said before, a 180 turn of events with the houses that are being activated right now. Okay, so that is today, the 14th. That's like the main news of the week. I mean, later in the week on Sunday the 20th, the sun does move into Cancer, and this marks the solstice. So at this point of the year, the days are slowly starting to get shorter. So we are reaching the pinnacle of light, the amount of sunlight that we have in the sky, at least in the northern hemisphere. And the light starts getting slowly, it starts fading, right? So, you know, the sun is highlighting the Cancer part of your chart. That house will be activated. This is nothing new because we just had Mars go through Cancer, and Venus is currently there and will continue to be there for the next week, week and a half or so. Cancer is more cautious, more protective, more introverted, yin. There's maybe more of a nurturing quality, a more introverted quality. You know, themes of family, home, mother, your kind of those who you consider family might come up in your life. But once again, it's nothing, you know, this news isn't new. We already had Mars and Venus in this territory, so it's kind of like continuing those themes, whatever has been going on for you, whatever house is being highlighted, whatever planets are being activated in your personal birth chart. So that is that. And then we also have Jupiter stationing retrograde on Sunday the 20th. I think it's at about 2 degrees of Pisces, and it'll go back into Aquarius, I think by July 28th. And so whatever we've been experiencing with Jupiter and Pisces, whatever blessings and opportunities have come to you, you know, there might be a refractory period or retreating or going back, or maybe a sense of like you're not quite ready yet for this opportunity, or you know, maybe you got like a short-term gig and it's ending by the end of the month. But don't you worry, Jupiter will be heading back into Pisces at the end of the year in December. And so that's the kind of the moment or the time frame where these opportunities will come back up, these themes will come back up, and maybe that would be a time where, for example, the short-term gig turned into a long-term job or something like that. That's like a very basic example. But yeah, not to worry. It just means that there's unfinished business with Jupiter in Aquarius. So that part of your chart will get a boost again, which is really nice. And then we'll have Jupiter in Pisces again in its own sign at the end of the year for about 5 or 6 months. So that is the astrology of the week. I hope you enjoyed this video, found it helpful. Just remember, if you are struggling or feeling anxious or stuck or, you know, whatever, you're not alone. And, you know, it's just reflective that something needs to maybe shift or change or be adjusted in order to more fully serve you. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Please message me or email me if you are interested in a consultation. Okay, have a great week.